Have you ever wondered what influences our thoughts and actions, steering us away from wholesome behavior? A fascinating question, isn't it? In Buddhism, the answer to this query lies in understanding the concept of unwholesome mental factors. These factors are essentially mental states or qualities that cloud our judgment, distort our perception, and lead us away from moral and ethical conduct. They are the elements that influence our thoughts and actions, often causing us to act in ways that are not beneficial to ourselves or others. The concept of unwholesome mental factors is not exclusive to Buddhism. In fact, its universal nature means that these factors can arise in anyone's mind, irrespective of their cultural, religious, or geographical background. They are part of the human condition, affecting all of us in one way or another. There are numerous unwholesome mental factors identified within the Buddhist tradition, but today we will be focusing on 4 that are considered universal. These universal unwholesome mental factors are ignorance, shamelessness, fearlessness of wrongdoing, and restlessness. Each of these factors plays a unique role in shaping our behavior and actions, often leading us towards actions that are harmful, unskillful, or unbeneficial. Understanding these unwholesome mental factors is not just an exercise in Buddhist philosophy. It's a practical tool for self-awareness and personal growth. By recognizing these factors within ourselves, we can begin to understand the roots of our unwholesome actions and thoughts. This understanding can then guide us towards more mindful, ethical, and compassionate living. So why is this important? Well, by understanding and recognizing these unwholesome mental factors, we can begin to steer our minds away from them, fostering more wholesome thoughts and actions. This can lead to a greater sense of peace, happiness, and fulfillment in our lives. In essence, understanding these unwholesome mental factors is a step towards understanding ourselves better, towards leading more mindful and fulfilling lives. Now that we know what unwholesome mental factors are, let's delve into the first one. Ever been in the dark about something and made a wrong decision as a result? That's what ignorance is. Ignorance, or moha in Buddhism, is not simply a lack of knowledge. It is a fundamental misunderstanding or lack of understanding about the true nature of things. It's like being lost in a dense forest, without a map or compass to guide you. The trees and pathways are there, but without the right understanding, you're just wandering aimlessly, likely to trip and fall, or even worse, walk right into danger. This unwholesome mental factor is considered the root of all unwholesome actions. It's the veil that obscures our vision, preventing us from seeing things as they really are. Ignorance is the fog that blurs our perception of reality. It makes us believe in a false sense of self and leads us to crave, to grasp, to feel aversion, and to suffer. In Buddhism, ignorance is the opposite of wisdom. Wisdom is the clear understanding of the way things are, seeing the interconnectedness of all things, and realizing the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness of life. Ignorance, on the other hand, is the lack of this wisdom. It's the darkness that keeps us from seeing the light of truth. But here's the thing. Ignorance is not a permanent state. It's not an inherent part of our being. It's a condition, a state of mind that we can change. Through meditation, mindfulness, and right understanding, we can peel back the layers of ignorance and illuminate our mind with the light of wisdom. By recognizing ignorance, we can begin to understand its role in our suffering. We can see how it leads to unwholesome actions, how it creates a cycle of suffering. And with this understanding, we can start to break free from this cycle. We can start to cultivate wisdom, to shine a light in the darkness, and to walk the path towards enlightenment. Ignorance may lead us astray, but let's see how the next unwholesome factor influences us. Do you know what happens when we lose the sense of shame over wrongdoing? That's when shamelessness steps in. Shamelessness, or ahirika in Pali, is one of the 4 universal unwholesome mental factors in Buddhism. It's the absence of moral shame, the lack of the internal voice that tells us when we're doing something wrong. When we lose the sense of shame over our actions, we open the door to unwholesome behavior, and this is where shamelessness steps in. Imagine a world where everyone acts according to their whims, without any concern for right or wrong. This is the world of shamelessness, where actions are dictated not by ethical considerations, but by self-interest or thoughtless impulses. It's a world where the moral compass is lost, and the guiding light of conscience is extinguished. shamelessness is not about being free or liberated. It's about losing touch with the principles that make us human, that make us compassionate and considerate beings. It's about abandoning the values that guide us towards the path of goodness, and instead, walking down the path of harm and negativity. In Buddhism, actions driven by shamelessness contribute to the creation of negative karma. Karma, as you may know, is the law of cause and effect in moral realms. When we act without shame, without regard for the ethical implications of our actions, we create a ripple effect of negativity that can have far-reaching consequences. Remember, in Buddhism, our actions, our thoughts, and our words all have consequences. They shape our present and future experiences. When we act without shame, when we let shamelessness guide our actions, we're setting ourselves up for a future filled with regret and suffering. Being aware of shamelessness, recognizing it when it arises, and making a conscious effort to cultivate moral shame can help us avoid the pitfalls of unwholesome behavior. It can guide us towards a path of virtue and wholesomeness, a path that leads to peace and happiness. From shamelessness, we move to the next unwholesome factor that's closely related. Have you ever committed a wrong act without fearing its consequences? That's fearlessness of wrongdoing. Imagine walking on a tightrope. There is a certain dread that keeps you balanced, focused, and cautious. This dread is not necessarily negative. It's a healthy form of fear that helps you avoid falling. In a similar way, fearlessness of wrongdoing, or anuttappa in Buddhist terminology, refers to the absence of this moral dread that could lead us astray. Anuttappa is not about being brave or courageous. It's about the absence of fear in committing wrongful acts, a lack of concern for the negative consequences of our actions. This fearlessness is not a virtue. Instead, it's an unwholesome mental factor that can lead to harmful behavior. Think about it. When we are fearless in the face of wrongdoing, we are essentially dismissing the ethical implications of our actions. We are ignoring the potential harm we might cause to ourselves and others. This can lead to a cycle of negative behavior, where one wrong act leads to another, and another with no end in sight. But why does this happen? Why do we sometimes become fearless in the face of wrongdoing? The answer lies in our ignorance and shamelessness, the other two unwholesome mental factors we've discussed earlier. Ignorance blinds us to the true nature of our actions, while shamelessness removes the internal checks and balances that keep our behavior in line. Fearlessness of wrongdoing is like driving without brakes. It's reckless, dangerous, and eventually disastrous. But the good news is, just as a faulty brake can be fixed, so can our fearlessness of wrongdoing. It starts with awareness, understanding the consequences of our actions, and developing a sense of moral dread. It's about reclaiming the balance on our ethical tightrope. Remember, the goal is not to be paralyzed by fear, but to use it as a guide, a compass that helps us navigate the complexities of life with wisdom and compassion. Now that we've understood the fearlessness of wrongdoing, let's move on to our last unwholesome mental factor. Ever felt your mind buzzing with thoughts, unable to rest? That's restlessness. In Buddhism, this is known as uddhacca, a state of agitation and distraction that scatters our thoughts and disrupts our focus. It's like a flag in the wind, constantly fluttering, never still. This mental state can lead us down the path of unwholesome behavior. It's not hard to see why. Imagine trying to make a decision while your mind is like a storm-tossed sea, chaotic and tumultuous. It's nearly impossible to think clearly, let alone act wisely. Restlessness also feeds into our other unwholesome mental factors. It amplifies ignorance, emboldens shamelessness, and fuels fearlessness of wrongdoing. It's a catalyst that accelerates our descent into unwholesomeness. But remember, the first step to overcoming restlessness is recognizing it. Once we're aware of our restless mind, we can begin to calm the storm and steer our thoughts back towards wholesomeness. Having understood all four unwholesome mental factors, let's quickly recap. In our journey today, we have uncovered the four universal unwholesome mental factors. As we tread along this enlightening path, let's take a moment to reflect and revisit these profound concepts. Firstly, we delved into the depths of ignorance, a fundamental unwholesome factor that is often depicted as the root of all suffering in Buddhist teachings. Ignorance, or avidya in Sanskrit, represents a lack of understanding or awareness of the true nature of things, causing us to perceive reality through a distorted lens. This lack of knowledge isn't confined to the intellectual realm. Instead, it's a profound misunderstanding of the fundamental truths of existence, such as the laws of karma and the transient nature of all phenomena. We learn that ignorance is the primary force that fuels the cycle of rebirth and suffering, known as samsara. But it's not a permanent state of mind. Through mindful practice and the cultivation of wisdom, we can gradually dispel the clouds of ignorance and see reality as it truly is. Next, we explored the concept of shamelessness, or ahirika in Pali. This is not the absence of modesty, but rather a lack of moral shame. It's the inability to feel remorse or guilt for wrongful actions, driven by an absence of moral conscience. Shamelessness can be seen as the internal compass that has lost its true north, leading us to stray from the path of righteousness. In the context of Buddhist philosophy, shamelessness isn't about societal norms or cultural taboos. Instead, it's about recognizing the inherent ethical dimension of our actions and understanding that harmful deeds lead to personal suffering and spiritual decline. By cultivating a sense of moral shame, we can steer our minds towards more wholesome states and actions. Our journey then led us to the fearlessness of wrongdoing, or anuttappa. This unwholesome factor is closely related to shamelessness, as they both deal with the ethical dimensions of our thoughts, words, and actions. While shamelessness reflects the lack of internal remorse, fearlessness of wrongdoing refers to the disregard for external consequences of unskillful actions. In essence, fearlessness of wrongdoing is the audacity to act harmfully without fear of the resulting karmic consequences. It's the absence of wise consideration about the potential harm our actions can cause to ourselves and others. By developing a clear understanding and respect for the law of karma, we can replace this fearlessness with a wholesome fear of causing harm and suffering. Lastly, we touched upon restlessness, or uddhaka. This is a state of constant agitation and turmoil, a mind that is never at peace. Restlessness is the inability to focus or settle, a perpetual stirring of the mind that distracts us from the present moment and our true nature. In Buddhist teachings, restlessness is considered one of the most challenging hindrances to overcome, especially in the practice of meditation. It keeps us chained to the past and the future, preventing us from experiencing the freedom and serenity of the present moment. Through mindfulness and concentration, we can learn to calm the restless mind and cultivate inner peace. In conclusion, these four unwholesome mental factors, ignorance, shamelessness, fearlessness of wrongdoing, and restlessness, are universal aspects of the human mind that contribute to suffering and spiritual decline. However, they are not permanent or inherent traits. Through understanding, mindfulness, and ethical conduct, we can transform these unwholesome factors into seeds of wisdom, compassion, and inner peace. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey. Remember, understanding these factors can help us navigate our own minds better and strive towards more wholesome thoughts and actions.